Hello, welcome to the channel. In this video we're going to be taking out this old heat only boiler, replacing it with a brand new Vaillant and discussing why we're not actually going for an air source heat pump. Okay, this is the boiler that we're going to be removing. It's an old heat only Potterton. It's had a lot of problems over the years. British Gas have condemned it and now it's due for renewal. Now, a quick history of this job. I've been out a couple of times previously in the past. One, I quoted for an air source heat pump, and secondly, we quoted for a sealed system. Now, the problem with both of those options is there's quite a lot of risk involved with all of those and also quite a lot of expense. So the main issue with the air source heat pump is we've got single pane glass throughout this property, and we've also got no insulation in the loft or in the cavity. So the customer would have had to upgrade quite a lot before it was even suitable for an air source heat pump, as well as a lot of the radiators. The second option was to put a system boiler in, high efficiency, something like a Viessmann 200 on a plate-to-plate heat exchanger, separating the old heating with a pressurized sort of sealed system around the boiler and run it off weather compensation. Again, it was coming in quite expensive, and we still would have had the same issue with the insulation, so the boiler would have had to run at quite a high temperature to maintain the heat loss. Now, the main issue we've got here is we've got some beautiful parquet flooring that runs throughout the property. As you can see here, pretty much covers the whole ground floor, and all the existing central heating pipework actually runs underneath it. So we've got a little bit of a problem in terms of risk factor. So all in all, when we sort of considered all the options, we actually thought it's probably best just to stick with a heat only boiler, try and cause as minimal disruption to the existing pipework as possible, and just upgrade it with a new condensing boiler. We'll flush the system out, put a new pump on and upgrade some of the radiators. So hopefully we're going to get this property up to temperature that the customer's happy with. So anyway, let's get this Potterton boiler out and take a look at the new Vaillant. Okay, she's on the wall. So this is the Vaillant 400 series. So this is the heat only boiler from Vaillant. This particular model was a 30 kilowatt. The heat loss on this property is nowhere near 30 kilowatts, but it's just what the customer wanted. So on this occasion, this is what we are installing. This is a cupboard fit boiler. It's nice and small, nice and light, and to be honest, it's been very, very simple to get onto the wall. One of the main advantages of this boiler is you have actually got the option to have a rear exit flue. So the flue on this just goes straight into the back of the boiler, which is great in this situation because we've got limited wall space. As you can see, we've got the windows above and also a utility worktop below. So the boiler kind of has to go exactly where it is. Now, the only issue that kind of leaves me is the pipework connections for the flow and return are on the top, which is what you'd probably find on most heat only boilers. But we've got our flow and return over here and our pipework here. Now, Vaillant do give you two straight compression fittings to go onto these pipe towels here. They've got brass inserts, but they don't really like you soldering onto these. Now, I'm not sure about press, but on this occasion, I'm just going to use some compression elbows, come off of here, and then we can pipe as best as we can into the existing flow and return. So as far as saving space, this boiler is probably the best option. I think originally we was going to go for a Viessmann 100, but to be honest, I do like the look of this. So yeah, let's get this piped up and take a look at all the connections. Okay, that's the boiler all piped up. So we've got our flow and return in at the top, we've got our gas on the bottom right hand side there, and we've got our condensate pipe there, which I've just dropped into the sink waste in that cupboard there. So moving into the airing cupboard there, we need to start to look at how we're going to improve this open vented system. Now, the customer has been complaining about poor circulation, not all the radiators are getting hot, so your first sort of port of call really is the pump. Now, this looks like a decent pump, to be fair. It's a Grundfos Alpha 2 6-meter head pump. It doesn't look that old, so I would usually change it, but the customer has requested for a new pump, so we're going to stick a Vaillant pump in. So this is actually an 8-meter head, which should be fine, and we'll be able to sort of see all the settings or set it all up properly on the controller here. So we'll get this pump replaced. I also need to add an auto bypass valve. So at the moment we've just got this little ball fix valve here, so I need to get that swapped out. So basically an auto bypass valve just allows the water to circulate back around the boiler return to prevent it from overheating, causing any damage if, for example, any of these valves sort of close or all the thermostats are shut on your radiators and there's nowhere for the heat to circulate to, although technically that shouldn't happen with a 3-port valve. Now, the other thing I've noticed up here is I do actually have a system filter, which is pretty much identical to the one that I'm going to be installing. The only reason I'm changing it is because Vaillant require you to actually install their own filter to get the 10 years warranty. So the one I've got is actually 22mm connection. So what I'm hoping is we can use the original body and just put the new Vaillant filter on the top. Okay, back inside the boiler then. So to open up this control panel or to access the PCB, you've got these 2 clips on the top here. So that drops down. And then on the left hand side here, this light blue, dark egg green plug is our live neutral earth and our switch live. So that's RT, our switch live on a Vaillant. And then we've got our green plug here, which is for our pump. So our switch live from our original cabling actually comes off of the pump cable, so we've put that into the switch live, and then the neutral's missing because it's taking it from somewhere in the wiring center. Now, to make sure that the boiler doesn't just continuously operate, you need to remove the RT 24-volt link. So if you don't do that, the boiler will just fire up automatically. So I'm just going to take that out. Well, that always used to be the case anyway. I'm assuming that's right. So, and then I'll just leave the link inside the boiler should anybody else ever want to change the controls in the future. So regarding the actual boiler, that's pretty much it. We're all piped up, everything's wired in, we're good to go. I have now filled up the central heating system after giving that header tank a good clean, and I've connected up my MagnaClean. So as you can see, I've actually removed the filter up there. I couldn't find my adapter to go on the Vaillant filter, and I've just jigged it up to the MagnaClean. So we've got the cleaning chemicals in it at the moment, and it's just running through the system. So for those of you who haven't used one of these before, basically it's 2 big powerful magnets inside there, collects all the iron oxide, sludge and debris that flows through the system. So you connect this up to the return, and it's just a lot simpler way of doing it compared to a power flush. So power flushes are great if you've got a real stubborn blockage or something like that, but in terms of just cleaning or flushing the system out, this is perfect. Now, I said earlier I was just going to chuck the 22mm Vaillant filter on, but the 22mm Vaillant filter is actually totally different, so I did have to order the 28mm, and that is it there. It looks exactly the same as the one that's coming out, which is a bit frustrating, but we need it for the warranty. So the pump is now operational. So this is an 8-meter head pump, but what you can do is turn it down. So as I'm turning it, you can actually set the pump head. Now, like I said, this is an open vented system, so the distance or the height between the pump and the actual header tank is still relevant. So I've got it set at 7.5, I believe. Let's have it. Yeah, I had it at 7.5. Made sure it's not going over the vent in the header tank, so it's running lovely, and a lot of the radiators are now starting to get nice and hot. So regarding the chemicals I'm using, I'm actually using this Radiant or Radiant, I'm not exactly sure how you say it. Chucked 2 lots of those in, seems to be running absolutely fine. Be interesting to see how much sludge and debris we get out of the system. Regarding the radiators, I've actually replaced 7 radiators here in the property. Now, the existing radiators weren't covering the heat loss for each room, and what I've done is I've sized the new ones at DT30. So what that means is if they ever do decide to go for an air source heat pump or a high efficiency system, these radiators are going to be suitable and they won't need to be upgraded in the future. Now, each rad I had to actually re-pipe, so it was a little bit of a pain, but we got there in the end. And I did have a new apprentice with me, so I haven't got any films of us doing it. I didn't want to put him under too much pressure on his first day over camera in his face. But the work he did was great. So what we've done is we've actually bent the pipes in, coupling. Always like to use blue tissue to wrap around the pipes. The reason being is when I'm filling up the system afterwards, if there's any leaks or any drips from any of these couplings, obviously you can see it quite clearly on that blue tissue rather than it running down the pipe and then through the ceiling downstairs. So like I say, in terms of rads, we've changed the ones the customers asked us to do. Haven't replaced them all, but hopefully with these big rads in, this is going to get nice and hot and the customer's going to be really happy. Moving back to the boiler then, so it's now operational. I must admit it's incredibly quiet. The positives then with this boiler is it's very small, very light. Ease of installation is great, and also you've got that rear exit flue, so can actually fit in places where other boilers can't. You've also got this cover with a really deep cushion on it, so once the cover's on, it pretty much is silent whilst in operation. My only problem or negative with this boiler is Vaillant own Glowworm, which is their sister company, and Glowworm in their range have a boiler that is pretty much identical, but it's half the price. Now, the only benefits really you're getting if you go for the Vaillant are the Vaillant branding, the Vaillant control, and also a longer warranty. So this was 1,500 quid, the Glowworm is about 750 quid, so is £750 worth spending on a few years extra warranty? I don't know, but like I say, in this situation, heat only was the best option. Now, if the customer went for the air source heat pump installation, we would have had to spend a lot more money. We would have had to upgrade all of the airing cupboard, as well as a huge expense that would have cost the customer for upgrading the windows, upgrading the insulation, and on this occasion it just wasn't practical. Like I said, we was potentially talking about going for a sealed system with a sealed system boiler, but because of the risk to the pipework underneath the parquet and tiles, we decided not to do that. And sometimes the easy option is actually the best option. So let me know what you think in the comments. So thank you very much for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed it, and hopefully catch you on the next one.